Everybody, welcome to Men on Purpose podcast. We have Etienne Laliberte. Thank you so much for joining us today.
A pleasure.
For those who don't know Etienne, we've actually connected a few months ago. Etienne is an incredible entrepreneur. He's in Canada. He's a massive dreamer of new possibilities for the world in terms of permaculture, sustainable living, and creating the future for, a healthy, wealthy, and happy future for the next generation. So in our tribe, and we've been connecting over the last couple of months, I really admired your desire for knowledge, education, and you're a teacher. You're a master teacher in my books. In terms of the tribe, you would be considered one of the elders. You just turned 60 years old. And a lot of the challenges I find for the young generation is that we don't have the wisdom from the old generation filtering down to the next generation. Usually it's social media or some news or whatever it is that we're getting half truths, and they say a half truth ends up being a full lie. So we're here to discuss wisdom around health, wealth, and communication. And I'd love to just jump into it. How did you get into this? What's your story? And how did you come to, right now, I think you're on your eco village right now. And
Yes.
how did you start this whole journey?
Yes. Well, it's interesting actually. I'll spend only 6, 7 minutes maybe on my bio because there's so much and there's books that could be written about me. But let's focus on what might be interesting for our audience. And well, yes, that's true. I've turned 60, and that was like 3 months ago. And now today it's Solstice Day, so it's the 21st of December, and I'm in Canada. So winter is starting, and you're in Queensland and down under, and it's summertime starting. So we're yin and yang. It's kind of cool that you've set that date. Actually, it was yesterday, but it was shifted for today, so that's great. So basically, when I was young, well, let's say 5 years old, as far as I remember because my mom put like a big five candle on my cake, that's why I remember so vividly this image, but I don't have much recollection of my living at the time, very, very blurry. But one thing I remember is I was very curious. I was like auto oriented. And I think maybe it's a gift I had, but I took advantage of it. And my dad was not my friend. I didn't know at the time, but I felt like some kind of it's not cool with him. I didn't feel like I'm his buddy. I'm his son. I always felt like I'm kind of a stranger at home. But it was a feeling. At 5 years old, what can you say? Just shift a few years later, move ahead in time, and I've started to work as a paper boy. And boy, that was a great decision. There was an opportunity that's been offered, and I took it, and I've learned how to become free. And I've learned freedom, which is one of my major value is freedom. And I've learned it at such a young age that actually it became a habit very quickly. And I needed more money, so I had like 1, 2, 3, 4 runs. So I was wake up at 5 a.m., had 2 runs, and then I come back from school and I have 2 more runs to do that. And I've done that for a few years, made a lot of money. I remember seeing my sisters and my brothers, begging for money for my parents, and I was just like totally independent. And this created some kind of relationship positioning in my family. We're five. I got one brother, 3 sisters. I'm the second one. I got an older sister, and my brother is next after that, 2 sisters. And they were begging for money. I was free, and they treated me like I was like independent, and I had like a lot of leeway in my managing my time for a kid. And I didn't know. I noticed, I felt it, but I didn't realize the importance of that later on. When I became a teenager, and I've discovered a lot of things, because before I was a teenager, I built a telescope and I was watching stars, and I was like an astronomer, and that's where I've got my imagination for the incredible um, immensity of the universe. You look at the stars; it's incredible, it's mysterious. you look in the books and you see all these pictures of galaxies, nebulas, planets, and it's just amazing. You see, wow, there's a whole world out there, you know. And but when I was turning to be a teenager, I was lucky enough to meet a girl who's actually showing me different kind of stars, you know, and I've discovered women. This is a totally different universe, and I was on my way to discover like what life on Earth is in terms of you know being a man, transitioning to well, a boy transitioning to a man and learning these things. So it was quite a challenge, you know, because we don't have much education about that at the time. I was in 75, you know, so it's pretty we were pretty like classically raised, so we didn't have much education about that, you know. And make a long story short, this actually allowed me to tap into my creativity and discover the hot buttons in women's, but also in communications, you know, to understand the language. And it was fascinating for me to discover that, because it is fascinating first, and it is exciting too, but it is a challenge. It is quite a challenge. And most of my friends in school were pretty much not interested in learning how it works, you know, what how the body of the woman works or how they think. They were more like going along the flow of ignorance. So basically, let's shift. You'll see why later. It's important that my discovery of women was key in my understanding of the world. So I went to college, and actually, before I went to college, I was I traded my paperboy run. I was giving my freedom, my money, for for a guitar teacher, because we were all musicians at home, and I was teaching guitar. In high school, we had a band. I had a band, and we played. And then after that, the kids showed up at my door. They wanted to take guitar lessons, so I traded that for a guitar teacher, and it was pretty good. And that's when my dad, who was not my friend, but he had some good advice, gave me his one of his best advice. He because, you know, the kids were willing to learn how to play, but they would not show up most of the time, you know, the 80-20 rule. So most of the time they don't show up, and I would wait for them and waste my time and don't make money. So he told me this advice, and this advice is good for any kind of business, is when you have people, have them like commit to something, let's say. And his advice was, let them commit for 1 month and they pay in advance. And if they don't show up for any reason, you allow them to reschedule over in the week, you know, for the next lesson. And if they can't, they lose their money. So like that, it was great, because most of them would not show up. I would get paid, but I could practice, you know, because I would practice anyway to play guitar. So I was paid to practice. So it was great thing, great tip. Thanks, Dad. And so basically, then I went to college, and I was not very susceptible to college indoctrination. That's how I felt it was. I was not aware of that at the time, but I was not very good. So when I've quit college after 3 years, I didn't get the diploma. My dad was like, it was war with my dad, and it was the breakup. You know, now we were at war. And my dad kicked me out of home, and that was like the best thing he ever did. And I was forced to leave the nest and fly, and it was a very good experience. So I went through sleeping in my car, kind of thing, you know. And then I went and I was studying to become a sound engineer. But one important element I'd like to add about this episode is that just a month before I told my dad that I was like quitting college, one of my best friends died. And I was not in Canada. I was in Morocco when it happened. And when I came back, my sister told me he was dead. And then my brother took my summer job, you know, and it was just like alone home, and just like kind of thinking about my future. My best friend is dead. I don't want to go to college. What am I gonna do, you know? And so it's maybe it's not no coincidence, but his death was had a meaning for me. It meant that you need to make serious decisions, and it was an important decision to make. What do I want to do in life? Do I want to please my dad, go to college, get a job, and get into the system, or do I want to really pursue my dreams? And I've picked that option against all odds and against everybody else. and I became a sound engineer, and I was working as a sound engineer for 9 years. But shifting through, and I think we've passed the 7 minutes, but you can edit it later. Um,
No, go for it. It's really interesting.
and so I was a sound engineer and a record producer and a music publisher and managers and all these things. And I've learned a contract management and all these things. It was very exciting, but very hard. Music business is hard. We've made a lot of concerts. It was an exciting moment, but I got like pissed off of this kind of music business. I don't know, industry. It was not my vibe anymore, and it was too much disconnected from the true meaning of value, the true values. It's really fake world, and I felt that it was too fake for me. So I had a different calling, and so I knew I wanted to do business, and I invested much time into producing records, much time into learning chess because I was a chess player and I was playing tournaments, stuff like that. um, I'll say a little thing about chess. What the lesson I've learned from chess was very meaningful. But the most interesting part I would say is that I knew I wanted to be in business and do business, and I needed to master the selling process. I was not bad at it, but I needed to do like full-time kind of sales job to actually get into the business language, get into the energy of making deals, the art of the deal. I needed to learn that. So I've been offered on a silver platter a job as a sales rep for Minolta, Canada, and selling photocopier, which is a pretty good school to learn that thing. And I've done that for a year and a half. It was the best decision I've made. I knew I would suffer the first 3 months, and I did, but it was exciting because it was challenging. And I was 30 years old, more or less, and I was with young kids, 22 years old, and they were driving Mercedes, making money like water. And it was just like amazing kind of experience. So I've learned a lot and allowed me to actually move down the ladder and get started in my businesses. And eventually, and I've started business. I've been offered another job as a manager for the project management center. It was like an Ottawa-based business, but I had to take, and they were only speaking English, all the Western Canada and Middle and Canada Central. But the East Coast, I was mostly like French, and they hired me, and I was handling that, and I did that for a year. And I've learned a very, very important lesson from this guy, Robert Happy, who hired me, is that in consulting jobs, your prices is very important. The rates you set are absolutely key to gain credibility. And he had a process, and the little methodology was pretty simple, and it was very, very, very interesting. And we were making a lot of. That's when I've started to make some really serious money, like 10 times more than I used to do in the past. And then he sold the company to Symantec. He moved to work for Symantec in California, and I was stuck with the new owner. We didn't get along, so I decided to start my internet company in 1994. And I just put an ad in the paper and got a few customers, and then I was okay for 5-6 years. And I made a fortune. Actually, I made a fortune. I made a few millions, and I could retire. I was 42 years old, and I did, because I thought it was like the thing to do. And it was not bad, but it was like a shift. It was a shift in my life. So I moved to Costa Rica. I've learned Spanish, another challenge, and I was enjoying, working remotely, because when I didn't sell the company, but I didn't take any more consulting project or website production contract. I didn't take any more of these, but I kept the web hosting automated business, which took like 4 or 5 hours a week. And I would make as much money than as if I've been working full time, so it was like pretty good leverage. So that's my story basically. And now for the next part of my story, I'm in it now. I've done all this pretty much by myself. I had a few partners, a few subcontractors, and a little team, but everybody were independent. We're not like, I was not leading them. I was having contracts, and I would hire them, and they will deliver. I was more like a project manager, but I was all by myself. And I've tried the employee route at one point, and it wasn't for me. I was not very good in communication. Actually, I found out that my emotional intelligence was 0. Well, 1, let's say 1 on the scale of 1 to 10. That was really bad. And my dad is even worse than I was, so you can imagine. Anyway, so um, I knew I wanted to create something, to not to leave a legacy. This is so cliche, but I wanted to have a like the ultimate challenge. And for me, working with people was not something I was attracted to, but with the crisis, it kind of triggered me like an emergency, an urgency to actually get to master the communication skills so I can actually become more of a influencer, which is not what I'm trying to do. But I'm trying to actually to I wanted to shift my powers from, let's say, just like a good businessman to some kind of magician, where I could actually teach people basic stuff that will allow them to get what they want. So that's why now when people ask me what I do, well, I tell them I train people to do what they have to do in order to get what they want to have. And this is not easy business to do. To transition is not easy, and I've been working on that for a long time through mindset and reading a lot and watching a lot of podcasts and studying a lot and working and failing and and basically, um, I've discovered a lot of technologies, or let's say business models that were popular in the past that are shifting now with new technology, social media, but they're still like the missing link of how you make it fluid. How do you make it like easier for people to onboard on any kind of new venture where they have new skills, you have no formal training, but you need to get results relatively quickly. How can you do it like in a elegant way? And this has been my journey for the last 3 years. Especially last year, I've made a lot of headways, and we're moving at a different pace now. And that's why now, if you have any questions, it's the time, because I'd like to go into the vital information, the vital part about the purpose, your purpose in life, and why I'm doing this. And it's not just for me; it's for a vision I have of a world where we're going to trade the main value of society, which is violence through institutions, to love and empowerment through self-creation, co-creation of your life. And this is possible only when you decide to do it, you can do it, and you ask for help from people who've done it, so you can actually bypass all the years of mistakes and failures and hurdles, so you can get into this energy quicker than, let's say, my route. It took me 60 years, but if I have somebody join my training, my team, I want them to be able to get results, tangible result within 6 months, a year, which is very short for any business, any meaningful business. The common they used to say that it's 5 years before you start to make a profit, but this is all bullshit. It was true maybe in the past. Now it's different. Everything is changing. So um, let's give a definition of purpose.
Yeah,
There's
well, this
uh,
is yeah, a great little segue there, and just to kind of come in here to acknowledge you for that journey that you've had, and so many great points there from where you started as an entrepreneur, and when you were very very young on the paper run, and then seeing the struggle that your brothers and sisters had trying to get money, and you you were so independent. At what age was that?
I was about 8 years old.
8 years
Yeah.
old, you're a true entrepreneur, right? Making money at the age of 8. So that's so interesting. And then I like how you brought into the aspect of communication around women, because that's such an important topic for men, and that was a massive struggle. An issue for me growing up is, how do I communicate with women in a way that they're going to be interested in me? How do I fit in, and
Yeah.
how do I find a partner, and how do I, be of value, things like that, because my belief systems were I wasn't good enough, not good looking enough, all these different things. So it's made me think of when I started reading books on communication and business, and how that definitely helped my business Body Language, or even the Neil Strauss, the Game book. These were books that I read in my towards the age of 20 years old, and they helped me not just in meeting women, but also in business, because it's all communication, how we come across, being
Absolutely.
influential. So I really like
Absolutely.
that. We can definitely touch upon that. And then, yeah, coming into more of what you're doing now with creating businesses, multimillionaire, building, working 4 to 5 hours a week. These are things that I think everyone wants, that time freedom, where most
Yeah.
people are on the hamster wheel working, 40, 50 hours a week for 40, 50 years and then retiring. A lot of us realize that that's not the only way. There's another way. And
Absolutely.
I want to definitely unpack that and some of those philosophies. In all, seeing you now creating a sustainable living, off the grid kind of living in Canada. It's super cold there, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
this is all fueled by purpose. And this is why I wanted to invite you on here, because I feel like you are a purpose-driven man, and you've had these experiences and all of these experiences forge us, refine
Mhm.
us, initiate us into becoming who we are today. So what
Yeah.
is purpose to you? What is your purpose? And yeah, how important has purpose been in your journey to today?
It's a very good question. I'm glad you asked, and actually, I've prepared myself because it's sometimes not. It's one of the topic or question I've asked myself the most over the last few years, because helping people, you need to find what their purpose is, and most of them, they don't know how to find it. And purpose is, well, Mark Twain said, the two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. And most people don't ever find out why they're born, and that's a drama, in my opinion, because this means you've been indoctrinated in such a lifestyle where you've disconnected from yourself that you don't even know why you live. So this is awful. I mean, this is unacceptable in a society where people are supposedly need to, well, can thrive. I don't think it should be the norm, but most people are just caught in a system, in a hamster wheel, or from cradle to grave. They're just like follow like orders, or just follow like the I don't know, the trend, and they never ask themselves the right question. It's always like a speed issue. They need to do this, they need to do that, blah blah blah, and then they never think and make the right decisions, because your purpose, if you don't take the time to find out why you do what you do, you don't know, and you end up doing all kind of things that actually burns you. That's why there's so many burnout. And so for me, my purpose is to get as many people to discover the free and accessible miracles that are already available. And there's a lot of these things. And I've been wondering over the last few years, especially because of the crisis we're in, and we see all the corruption and all these amazingly poor decisions being made for society at large, with horrendous consequences. So it forces you to think deeper into these questions. So why are we here? And I've discovered so many kind of natural miracles that are not miracles. They're just like facts, but they're just like buried somewhere. They're hidden, but the information is there. So why is that most people ignore these things? And one of them is water. You know my interest in water, and that's why I like now water has changed my life, and many times over and over in my life. But especially over the last few years, I've discovered that water was much more than just what we think it is. And when you ask people what is water, most of them, they think it's H2O and that's it, and then you drink water and you clean with water, and they don't know what it is. But water is so critical for life and for energy. In Canada, we produce our electric uh, energy, electrical energy with dammed and water. Water flows. So water flows, cash flows, energy flows, being in the flow. All these. Flow is action, flow is energy, flow is transformation, flow is cleaning. Flow is getting everywhere. Flow is the thing, you know. So that's why I think these accessible miracles are there, and I would not say it's censorship that create that ignorance, but I think now we've mass produced ignorance through college education to a point where people don't understand the basic things, you know, the basic things like eating, you know. Yeah, we have to relearn how to breathe, how to eat, how to sleep, how to drink, how to relax ourselves, how to manage our stress, because we've been like squeezed and pushed into a society where we're just like a machine. We're part of a machine. We're part of a system. We're just like a gear, and that gear is going to work nonstop. We're going to burn it on, and then we break, bang, we just replace it. This is not a life, you know. So that's why I have like one say that if you own your life, you're lucky, and it's not by chance that you own your life. I consider myself that I own my life, because think about this, and it has to do with the word selling, because selling and buying are just two sides of the same coin, and most people don't even realize this. But when you think about that, you bought a job. Why you bought a job with your time, and your employer, what he did, he just like bought your time. So you bought, let's say you have a full-time job, you bought all your time you're willing to allow to for a job, you know, which is, let's say, 40 hours, 50 hours. So most people don't realize that they've actually sold their time to their boss. So they don't have a life anymore. They sold their lives to their boss. So when you think about that, when you subtract the sleeping time, the sleeping hours, the commuting time, the working time, and all the things you have to do in the day, well, most people only have like 1 hour or 2 hours to do what they want to do, and then they don't even have the money to do it most of the time, you know. So this is not a life. This is like you're under hypnosis, and if you can barely pay your bills with this is not a life. This is you're caught in the cage, and you don't see the bars. And so this is like the thing, the dream that, or the system, the plan that's been sold to college, to the corporation. And I think it's I call it the 50-50-50 plan, which is like you work 50 hours a week to make $50,000, let's say a year, let's say on average in Canada, and you pay 50% taxes. So basically you work for nothing, you know, and you have nothing, and you can't even pay your bills. So what, you're left with nothing. So it's not a life. So when you sold your life, you don't own it anymore. Okay. And I'm trying, my work for now is to help people to shift that mindset and to find out what leverage is. And think about this. Do you drive a car, Zach?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. So you've learned how to drive a car, and I did learn to drive a car. I remember at first with my girlfriend, and and then I took official lessons because it was like law in Quebec. But it's when you let's say you want to you're in Montreal and you want to go to New York City. It's only it's like not even 400 miles, something like 600 kilometers, you know. So it's like 5 hours more or less. But let's say I only go there and go in first gear, and I'm going to New York, Jesus, in first gear. I never shift. So that's what it is, having a job. It's like going to New York, from Montreal to New York, in your car in first gear. You don't use leverage, you know. Leverage is very simple. Everybody know what a lever is. So a leverage, basically you put like 1 pound of pressure here. On the other side, you have like 50 pounds of lift, you know. So that's what leverage is. If you don't use that in your car, how many hours is going to take you to get to New York? It won't take you 5 hours. It will take you, I don't know, 50 hours, you know. So you need leverage if you want to drive there, you know. And so that's why we take an airplane, because you have much more leverage with the airplane. So leverage is key. So most people don't use leverage. When you have a job, you don't use leverage. Leverage is mass producing your income with a system, with a lever. And that's what I'm teaching people, how to start a business where you put a system in, or you acquire a system, you learn the system, and then you have the leverage to actually free up your time. So then you can work 5 hours a day. I've done that for 20 years, working 5 hours a day and making $200,000 a year in profits, So, when you work for a job, you work for a wage. And think about that. Your boss, he bought your time and you sold it all. So your boss is marking you up and he makes a profit. He make maybe as much as you make in wage in profits. So that's why you want to trade your wage for profits. It's very important because otherwise you're gonna be you'll be poor. And there's a reason why there's the poor and the rich. There's no middle class. You need proof? Well, what happened when you lose your job? How many hours, how many months, how many years you can live without a job? You can't.
What's going on, you purpose-driven human you? Thank you so much for checking out this interview. Zach Dean here. If you had any aha moments or questions, please put it into the comments. And while I have you here, I'd love to ask you a quick but powerful question. Do you ever dream about turning your passions and purpose into a business that helps people and makes a profit, but you don't have the energy or skill set or community or training to do so? Then listen up. I've actually created this. This has taken me 10 years of working with over 1,000 people in the health and wellness industry. I've created what's called the 28A Club. These are 28 actions of specific biohacks that give you the optimal energy, focus, and results in all areas based on quantum science and quantum biology. As you know, the frequencies in nature, when we align to them, allow us to become our fullest version. They allow us to become a high performer. When we disconnect from nature, we become a low performer, and it doesn't help to activate our purpose in life. And so if you'd like to download this is a free copy. Go to www.28a.club/join and you can download it, join the club of us high performers, and I look forward to seeing you in there.
You're going to be broke very soon. So either you're rich or you're poor. And why is that society's been brainwashed into being poor, starting all over again? In every generation, you have to start all over again, going to school, get a degree, this and that. And because you're being sold the wrong plan. So I'm helping people to get the right plan. So let's move into these other topics. Unless you have a question for me, I got some of these hot topics I'd like to talk about here.
This is great. Yeah, no, this is really interesting, great perspective, because I think a lot of people, yeah, whether it's some of these teenagers looking for a job, working at a fast food place or helping their family, or, I don't know, even young people now creating businesses. We've got social media, Shopify, like all these different online platforms to buy and sell, flipping on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
The world and these different technologies now, the world it is anyone's game, anyone's oyster. So this is a great perspective. You're either rich. What did you say? You're either rich or you're poor, because everyone who's poor, did you say, has a job? And that means if you're trading time for money, which is our most valuable asset, then if you lose your job, how long are you going to be able to live, sustain yourself? How many days,
Exactly.
how many months, how many years? And most people are going to survive only maybe a couple of weeks. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. I remember the same thing where I was pretty much spending all my pay in the I got paid and I spent all my money in like 2 days. And then when I started getting paid monthly, it was like, oh my gosh, if I'm paying all my bills and my expenses, where else does this money come from? What am I going to do? So I became more resourceful, figuring out other things I was passionate about that I had a good skill set with that the world needed. The Japanese philosophy, ikigai, what the world needs, what you can get paid for, and what you're good at. And I started doing events. I started going to other people's events and collaborating with them, whether it was a mastermind event or my broth night events. I started other sales jobs or other network marketing jobs or telemarketing or door-to-door sales. In my first year of high school, I had about 12 jobs, not at the same time, but usually juggling 2 or 3 or 4 jobs. This is when I was, 18, 19 years old. And so I think that's really important for people to, I'm so grateful for those experiences because it gave me such a variety to figure out what I didn't want to do. And I only had perspective of what I wanted to do when I figured out what I didn't want to do. So you got to try all these other things to get to that point of, I don't want that, don't want that, don't want that, don't want that. Or maybe it's women and dating. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. But this is my preference. And over time, you know, the specificity of my purpose, the specificity of the value, my skill set, and the energy and creativity I bring into these new projects is more refined because I'm more aware of my purpose. So yeah, over to you. That was just a couple of comments there.
Well, that's nice, Zach. I like to I like your outlook on life, because you've been like very like resourceful and for yourself, and you're very passionate about discovering and learning. And learning is actually, I think, one of the most important thing that's people don't use enough, because we've been like kind of brainwashed to think that you only learn in school or college, but actually self-learning is the most important thing. Especially nowadays, there's so many things we cannot rely on, let's say doctors or on science or whatever, because what they tell us is does not make sense. So we have to dig, we have to do the research, and it takes time. It's true, it takes time. Knowledge is key. Actually, it's probably through self learning or self care of getting to find out how to do things. For instance, I'm not a handyman. I built a house here, this earthship house. That was a dream of when I was a kid, and I decided to do it, and it was time to do it. I wanted to do it in Costa Rica, but because of women's in my life, I made some trade-off, and I shouldn't have split the difference, but I did it, and it's it's part of your learning experience, because nothing happens by chance. There's always like bad decisions and good decisions, and any decision is just a decision, with a few exceptions. We're the results of our past decisions. So that's why decision making is very important, and learning allows you to make better decisions. So if you've made a bad decision, at least don't lose the lesson, because there's a lesson from the bad decision. So don't lose that, because that lesson will allow you to just move the next milestone and just build on it. So I built that house, and I'm no handy man, but I've did it. I'm done, and I'm pretty proud of it, because before I only like helped my dad build like a cabin or a chalet, and I had like basic, very crude skills, in the 70s. I didn't remember much, and we didn't have electric bills by then. But when I built this here, it was like a solar house with solar panels, all in concrete, and kind of a high thermal mass. And I wanted to do it myself, most of the work. So I was like a project manager, but I was actually contribute and work at it. And now I'm proud I've done that. It's not totally finished yet, but it's the fact that actually you can just like be resourceful and figure it out. And thank God, because I had a lot of electricians supposed to help me install the solar panels and all the electronic gears and electrical stuff. And there's a code, you have to be code compliant. It's not a small task, it's a big challenge. And the electrician will never show up. So I decided, what the heck, I'll do it myself. And I've done it. I remember when I've turned on the power the first time, it was like a submarine. You see all these batteries, the wires, all the lights and everything. And I was with a friend. I said, well, get ready to call the ambulance if we fry, if it burns or something, And I've triple checked all the connections. And I just turned it on, and it made a nice little sound, like the submarine is ready to go ahead, to dive. I mean, so it's these are all little successes that makes you realize that you can do it. And that's actually a lesson I've learned when I was a teenager, learning to play chess. And that's probably and the chess thing is important in my life, because chess is, if you've played chess, it's very like technical, it's very like it's predictable, so when you play at first, and you have like you lose in 3 moves, there's a catch there. So you learn that catch, and then you lose in 5 moves. Oh wow, okay, you've improved yourself, you lasted 2 more moves, and then you go like that, and you see the patterns, and you say, well, I can't learn the patterns. And then you get the books, and then you see all these openings. Oh wow, then I'm gonna be able to beat my friends, because now I got the information in the books. They tell you what the moves are, so you can kind of cheat, but it's not cheating; it's actually learning. So I've spent a lot of time, and within 2 years, I became among the 50 best chess player in Quebec and Montreal. But I was like, and it was quite a feat. I was quite excited about that. But I've realized that if I wanted to make money, I would have like to train like an athlete, and spend so much time. And the little money was it was little money, and it was not exciting. Chess is not very. It's an exciting as a game, but as a lifestyle, I didn't see myself like Bobby Fischer, going doing tournaments. So I said, well, if I invest that much time into business, I'll be a millionaire. And that's what I've done. But the lesson I had from chess is that you can make it. Same thing with women. When I was a kid, I didn't have much time. Well, I knew women were a mystery, so I bought some book to understand how their bodies made, where the hot buttons are, stuff like that, the basic anatomy. But then I need the skill, the challenge to the pickup lines and how to do that. And I remember I was in a convenience store, and I saw a magazine that the title was like "How to Get More Women and Make Them Want You," and that was just like the book I bought, and I've just like studied this and I've applied it, and it worked. It worked, but it was just amazing. I mean, just like same kind of thing I've done with my record production company. I've signed up a band as a manager and a record producer. I need to finance it. So I've set up a corporation, sold some shares, and it was the first time I was selling shares. And I didn't know. I've read the book like Grow and Think and Grow Rich, and I look at the thing, and I've made a business plan, and I had the plan, and I've been there, and I've studied, selling with Tom Hopkins, and it was just like in my early beginning before I went into serious sales. I just like learned from a book selling. And so I've just applied it, and I went to see that guy. He wanted to invest in my band, and I just like done everything in the book and said everything they said, and I shut up. And the guy said, okay, he got his checkbook and he wrote me a check. I've sold the share of the company, some of the share, to finance the next record production deal. And that's it. And I remember when this happened, it says it's exactly like in the book. It's like the magic, magic is happening because I've imagined it. I've trained, I've prepared, I've researched, I've done my homework, and I've went into action, and it happened. So I could actually sell the untangible, because when you're selling things, you're buying. It's selling and buying is the same thing. When you sell, you buy actually. So in reverse, selling is buying in reverse. Have you ever heard somebody tell you, hey, Zach, I'm not good at selling?
All the time. A lot of people have a lot of negative connotations to sales, for sure.
Exactly, because people don't like to be sold. They like to buy. That's why they want money. They want money because they want to buy stuff. They want to buy. They need money to buy stuff. They want to buy, but they don't want to be sold. So when people tell you, well, I'm not good at sales, you say, well, I'm willing to believe you, but then there's a problem if I believe you, because you would have sold me that you're not good at sales and I bought it. So it means that you're good at sales. So there's a contradiction there, And it's true, because it's always like we all have one best customer, and it's ourselves. We always are selling ourselves all kind of things. Sometimes it's a lot of bullshit. Sometimes it's the truth, but sometimes it's not the truth, So we're selling ourselves. Well, you see, let's say you're looking at a girl and you say, well, she looks good. Should I go talk to her? Oh, well, I do that, and then you say, oh, I'm working tomorrow, I can't do it, or oh, she's too good looking. I got no chance. You're just like selling all kind of bullshit to yourself. So you have a customer, it's yourself who's buying that crap, And so that conversation in your mind is the same you have with when you buy or when you sell. Because when you buy, you're trying to convince yourself why you need it or why you don't need it. And when you sell, you're trying to have people in their head, their conversation, how to evaluate what you have to offer. So if you have something of value and the person really cannot afford it, well, you don't try to push the sale. You just understand, well, you don't have the money, so you can't afford this, and it's too bad, but that's not that's life, And unless you really want it, then we can find out maybe ways, but if you don't really can't afford that, I don't want to push something onto you can't afford, you know. So these are like, it's the same thing. So people were say that they're not good at sales is because they don't want to, they don't have like they don't want to have a selling job, you know. They don't want to have like a selling activity. They don't want to have to sell to people. They don't want to be proactive and call people, reach out to people and try to sell them. And it's okay. It's not for everybody, but if you want, if you see in what I do, I train people to do what they have to do in order to get what they want to have. There's one guarantee that comes with our offer is that, well, if you keep the life exactly the same, nothing will change. So that's guaranteed. Now, if you would like to have serious change in your life, like a lot more money, well, there's something has to change. So you need to learn something. You need to learn something new and to learn the skills, to learn to speak business. If I tell you, well, what would happen? Do you think you can learn Spanish?
Oh yeah.
If you
Well, of course, if I put the time and energy and, prioritize it, I definitely could. Yeah.
So if you could learn Spanish, you know, you will have to put some efforts in it, like many hours, maybe 500 hours over the next year or two. And you could, but let's say I offer you, well, learn to speak Spanish. It will take you maybe 3 months, but then practice that Spanish an hour a day for the next 2 years. And if you do that, I'll pay you $5,000 a month for the rest of your life. Would that be a good offer?
Wow. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
See, so that's how
There's reward at the end. Yeah.
yeah. So that's how people's imagination can be shocked or shaken to see, wow, it's true. If I don't change anything in my life, nothing will happen. So I have to find out options. What can I do? What can I practice? What can I learn and practice so I can actually get results, you know? And to mass produce money is in business most of the time, because if you're not born rich, the only richness you have in terms of assets is your mind. And if you put your mind into something you want to create, you can, and you have a lot of help for that. So it's up to you. It's always up to you.
It's a really interesting point there, because you said even with the chess, your chess career becoming, one of the top chess players in Montreal, was it? There's a time allocation. There's only so much time in the day. And a lot of people that I see, I find that they're mastering the minor tasks in life, whether that's they're trying to master social media, or they're trying to master, sports, or they're trying to master these areas of their life, which are hobbies, and that's great. But when I find out about them and their purpose is to help build a family, or help their family, or like change the world, or build $1 million business, or get a six pack, and then I see them mastering and putting all their time into these other tasks, whether that's partying, socializing, many distractions out there. I'm just like, yeah, there's only so much time in the day. So for me, I just feel that I have like this burning desire to maximize the amount of time that I have every single day. There's an urgency to it. It's like life is a big marathon. It feels like a long time, but at the same time, I don't think it is as well. So it's like, okay, where are you spending those hours, whether it's learning a language or learning chess or learning something that might not be super aligned to your purpose, and where can you allocate those hours? Because you said, okay, if you're going to spend 500 hours to learn Spanish, and by the end of it, get paid $5,000 a month for the rest of your life, it's going to be worth it. So you can do that in business. So yeah, I think time is the most valuable resource for sure.
Yeah, it is. It is. That's all we have, and it's perishable. So it's important to value your time more than you do, because as I've said, if you sell all your time to your boss, you don't own your life anymore. So let's go back to these topics, because I want to change the world, as you know. And I think here's what I think will happen in the next 5 years, because I think we'll have more change in the world over the next 5 years than we had over the last 250 years. And there's many reasons why I'm saying that. There's a crisis now. It's not technology, it's not the virus, it's a social crisis. It's an awakening of the masses, I think. I don't want to go into the bad guys or what they're doing. And actually, I think the world is in perfect balance. Even though there's wars and this and that, there's a lot of poverty and there's like inequalities in the world. I think the world is in a perfect balance. And let me explain that in the context of where the world is shifting, in my opinion. The problem we have in the world now since the Industrial Revolution is that people were all pretty much like on their own, like self-sufficient, like self-reliant, became all dependent of the corporations. And that's why they created these institutions to train people for the corporation. Henry Ford said that because, Henry Ford is the one who's just like designed the assembly line in the early 20th century. And he said, well, I have to raise the salaries of my employees so they can afford my product. So it's all kind of the law of, let's say, supply and demand is in the wild, let's say in nature works, the force of the market works, but in a governed, in a legal environment, it's all fake. Because when you control the prices and the wages, then there's no like, and you can eliminate the competition, then there's no real law of price and let's say supply and demand. So the reason I'm saying that is that these corporations have just like bought into or reshaped our institutions to support them, and now they have too much power. So I don't want to get into that politics shit, but if you look just the social aspect of it, now people are becoming dependent, and if you want to be a creator of your own life, you have first to own your thoughts. It's a good thing to own your life, but you cannot own your life if you don't own your thought. So the new colonialism is your thought has been, your mind has been colonized. In other words, the thoughts you have, the beliefs you have, they're not yours. You've been indoctrinated. And I've noticed that the more degrees you have PhDs or whatever, the more you think you're not susceptible to propaganda. You're just like, oh, you can't see what propaganda is. You can't see what lies are and fake news. And the fact is, it's nothing further than the truth, because most people are under this hypnotic, it never stops, bombardment of fake information, fake directives. If you look Star Trek, in Star Trek, they always claim the prime directive is that, the prime directive, non-interference, stuff like that, And let's say for humans and the society, I think humans or humanity is like an organism. In other words, we're living, we're a man and a woman are just a cell, like in the body, In your body, you have trillions of cells. And if you look, let's do that parallel. When you look at the sky, you see thousands of stars and thousands of galaxies, and that's where all the matter is created. We say that we could not exist if we didn't have the first stars. By the explosion would create these heavy elements that are part of our body, that allows our body to function. So we're stardust. So when you look at the stars, you look at the past. That's the past, because it's so far, well, according to the modern theory, which we will not go into disputing that, but let's say we agree that
that's for the next interview.
Yeah. That's the past. So we have billions and trillions of stars. It's beautiful. And then that's the past. But then you're conscious of that, and you realize your body has trillions of cells, and every cells have trillions of atoms and electrons, and they're all communicating, all in orbits of each other, all, in their own little universe. That's the present. That's the present. It's your body. You're aware that your body is your present. And now, where is your future? And that's the question. That's what I'm working on. That's why I'm trying to become magical, because your future is where your imagination will transform your mind and your body to create it physically in the real world, And that's where the power is. This vital energy you have in your body comes from the stars. You're connected electromagnetically. We're electrical. the only difference between a living body and a dead body, it's there's no more current passing going across the cells and the nerves. So that's the only difference. And you can still be warm, but you're dead, and just like there's no more electricity. But it's all the same thing. That the place, all the cells are the same place, but there's no more that power. So the parallel with that, with society and corporation, is that we, the humans, are part of an organism. You know, we're just like, we're alive. We have this collective memory, and we've been like tamed or brainwashed or dumbed down with to have like a miserable life, the comfort zone, the misery of my comfort zone, you know. And that is so miserable that in order to cope with this, you have to numb it. You drink alcohol, you do drugs, you escape and playing the casino or whatever your escape route is, you know. But when you numb this sadness, you numb your joy too. So you don't have enough joy to create an exciting life. So that's why the corporation have to go, and they've said that they already made the decisions to get extinguished by themselves. But what is the new way of living? What's the new era? And I think that we are going back to the real values, why we're here, why the purpose is so important. So being disconnected from nature, let's reconnect with nature. Let's learn about the magic of water. Let's learn about the magic of music, of frequencies, of this free energy that's all around us. Your free energy to control your emotions. All this can be learned. It's easy. It's going to make your life so much easier. And that's what we do when we train people in business. The first thing is the mindset. The tools, the system, it's okay, but this is not that going to make you rich. Rich, I mean like empowered, because you can have little money but be very rich because you're free. You have free time. You're healthy. Let's say I'm 60 years old. I have reasonable assets. I'm not a billionaire, but I'm okay. And I know some people, they have, let's say, 1,000 times more money than I have, but they don't have their health. So who's better off? I'm much better with just enough money just to be free than to be super rich and be sick, you know. So you see that health, it's an untangible, and most people don't value it until they've lost it. So it's much easier, and I've learned that on the late, unfortunately, but thank God I did, that if I maintain my body and my mind, I can actually maintain the quality of my life, and my body can regenerate itself well enough so I can be like fully and have an enjoyable life. And I can live like very old and in top shape. But if I get sick, to get back into health, especially with nowadays doctors, it's impossible. All the treatments are worse than the problem, you know. So it's so that's why once you realize this, the same thing for your job. If your job kills you because you hate it, or you hate the people, or you hate the lifestyle it gives you, you know, a lifestyle is, if you have a job, that's your lifestyle. Having a job is a lifestyle. If you don't have a job, it means you do something else, hopefully something you love, and you generate so much more money. You mass produce the money, so you have so much time. Then you have a life. You can do whatever you want. You know, it has to be fun. So that's the shift. The new era is people will break away from the corporation and will just reclaim their skills, their creative capacities. And the skills required is the most important skill that people will need to learn is leadership and communication, and how to self-care, because you cannot love others if you don't love yourself. When I was by myself, my ego was too strong. I was zero in emotional intelligence. I thought people were stupid, and they are. And you know why they are stupid? Because I am stupid. We have the right to be stupid. We've always been. We've done a lot of errors and mistakes, and we've been stupid. It's okay to forgive ourselves. It's okay to forgive ourselves, and just like to start to be less stupid, because making a right decision will make a difference in your life. So you have to learn the lesson. So once I've agreed that I found people were stupid and I've allowed them to be stupid and then allowed myself to be stupid, well, I decided, well, let's not focus on stupidity and just like put some kind of order in this. Put your house in order and then help others do the same. So I've done the Tony Robbins Awaken the Giant Within, or yeah, that's what I think it's called.
Yeah, me
And
too. Yeah, I've done it a couple
okay,
times. Highly recommend it.
absolutely. But it was like the virtual thing because in physical you walk on the fire,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the virtual thing just like give you like a piece of wood and you have to crack it like a karate guy, you know. And this pretty scary. It's pretty thick kind of wood, and it's just like, wow, I can't do it, but I'll follow the instructions, you know. And I had to put on the top like what I am, and on the back what I want to become. And in the front, I put like I'm a logical guy, you know. But I know logic is not enough to become magical, you know. So I said, all right, I will put magical in the back. So I want to shift from a logical guy to a magical guy, and the magic comes from others. How can you read, feel people, and allow them to get into tune, some kind of frequency where they get into that energy, where they believe they can change their lives, and then you facilitate that change, you know, by helping them with the right tools, the right reading, the right connection, and or the right advice sometimes. So this, I think, is the future. People will need to be trained into leading others, leading themselves first, leading others, and communicating, improving communication, getting away from all of these, let's say, commercial shit, because there's a lot of commercial messages, just like it's all the same formula. It doesn't work anymore. It's passe. We need to shift into value selling, value offers, and not be, you know, there's if you bring the topic, let's say, of network marketing, of MLM, lots of people get turned off automatically and they don't listen, they shut off and all this because there's a stigma to that term, network marketing, which is just like it just one way to market through distribution channels a product or a service. Network marketing is word of mouth basically. But there's that stigma because too many people untrained were just like unleashed in the world and just like they just like burned everybody about business, you know. So that's why I have that stigma. But when you think about that, the terminology you use, the words we use are very important because it creates these gateways where it shuts off communication or opens it, you know. So that's what we need to learn basically. So the truth matters. And if you're, because you know there's two kind of people in life. There's like the one who seek the truth and the one who believe in lies. So in selling or marketing, this is the same thing. If you approach somebody like with the same kind of language, well, you're gonna raise what's called the zone of resistance. You know, oh, he's selling something. But if you truly believe into something and you just listen to people, see if there's a fit, and then you ask them questions and you qualify them without their knowing actually, well, there's communication and you find out information about them, and you don't try to turn a rock into a gold bar. You know, a rock is a rock. You know, but so it's the communication has to be changed, and that's our mission. My mission: train people if they want to get what they want to have, and they want to have fun in the process. They have to discover themselves and learn the language. There's a few magic words you need to learn, but you have to learn most important is to learn the reasons why these magic words are working. And that's what we train, because your life is too important to let it to your boss, you know. You remember Tom, what's his name, Tom Schreider, Big Al.
Big Al Schreider, he's a legend. I met him in Sydney
Yeah,
one time. Yeah, no,
yeah,
he lives in Thailand. I tried to connect with him when I was in Thailand the other month.
that's true. He said something about, do you want to fire your blood-sucking vampire boss? And at the time when I was reading this, it didn't like turn me on because probably I didn't have a boss. So, but after a while and talking to people who had bosses and were caught in a employer-employee relationship, I couldn't understand that because it's true. you sell 100% of your time to your boss, he owns your life, you know. So it's a blood-sucking vampire boss, you know. So it's the main reason why people want to get started in business is to fire their boss. So it's there's a reason for that. Anyway,
Absolutely.
so let's wrap this up.
Oh,
I'm
oh,
pretty sure.
yeah, for sure. I just want to kind of pull this together. I'd love to just if you could share a little bit in a minute on the Earth ship, what you're
Sure.
creating,
Sure.
just any advice for anyone out there, because I think what you mentioned is so important. It's to be a man on purpose. It's about becoming a leader. And to be a leader, it's about mastering different areas of our life. And whether that's our health, without health, as you said, we have nothing. Wealth, without money, we have no freedom. We're trading time, and that's the most valuable asset. And usually we're getting taxed half of it. So what's the point of a job? Why not create financial freedom? And lastly, it's the level of communication with yourself, as you mentioned, the thoughts that people think, that we think, the communication with the people around us, our friends, our family, our partner in a relationship. So health, wealth, communication is so important here. And if we don't master these, we will not become a leader. So
Exactly.
this is really the whole idea as men on purpose, is we can choose this, and these interviews are here to help educate everyone on that. So yeah, it's like, okay, some people are out there, they may have their health, their wealth, they're communicating, they're in a really good place. And I know so many people who are. It's like that next level is then creating sustainability off grid, earth ships, tiny homes. This whole conversation of becoming ungovernable is growing and growing. So you're a massive step ahead. You've been wanting this since you're a young man, as you said. So what advice do you have for us out there looking or starting this journey of creating a sustainable living environment, home, lifestyle?
Well, probably the best thing I could say is first, never let anyone destroy your dreams. If you want to build a house or a cabin or any kind of project that's like will bring you closer to nature, where you're gonna have to actually put your hands in the dirt, or maybe not, but at least get you physically involved in it. This the best advice I would tell you is to actually research it and go see the people who've done it. Now you can do it on the internet. It's amazing. I didn't have that much resources at the time, but still, I bought the plan. Actually, I wanted to buy. I wanted to. My first idea for the chalet was to build a just like a wood log, a log home, because my plan was to stay most of the time in Costa Rica and just come here to visit my friends, my family in Canada during summertime. But that changed, and then because of a girl I was with, and I decided to build like a straw bale house, and I bought a lot of books about that, and I was about to do that. But then when it came time to actually do it, I saw it like much more complicated. And I just like came across a website from Bruce Burrup, in Colorado, who was building these earth ships with cinder blocks, And I look at it. It's called naturalhomes.com, I think, naturalhomes.com. I look at it, and he sold me on the idea that's if it's your first time project, this is the easiest one. It's not, there's nothing complicated. And I bought into simplicity, because running a web hosting company, even though it was taking only 5-6 hours a week, some weeks were actually it was taking a lot of my time. And so I wanted to have like a simple kind of construction project, but it was not that simple, but it was much simpler than building a regular home. So research that, get help, get the plans, change your mind. You're allowed to change your mind, because things changes, and sometimes you need to change. So change your mind, but explore, and go ahead. You can do it. Everybody can do it. And we only have one life. I think there's in some tribes, in some culture, when the man reach 18 years, the dad get along with his uncles and other people in the village, and they get together and they build a home for the son, and they involve him. He has to learn the trick of the trades, how to build his own home, and it takes like a month or maybe even less than that, and then he has a home paid for the rest of his life. He doesn't have to waste his time to pay the wage, to pay, for a mortgage or rent, And this came, I heard that story from Bill Mollison, who's the guy who coined the term permaculture. And he said that most people work for nothing. You see, everybody they work for nothing, and they have nothing, and they pay their their rent all their life, and they have nothing. But when you actually connect with Earth and you use the resources and you change your mindset not to become slave of a system, the corporate world, then you can actually be free. And I've achieved this. For instance, here, my wife and I, we're living here in Canada. The taxes where we're in, it's the home property tax are pretty low. So it's so low that when I live, let's say Mexico for 6 months, I don't care about the rent I pay here. But before, when I was like on rent in Montreal or elsewhere, when I was leaving Costa Rica, I had to pay a rent in Montreal and the rent in Costa Rica, so it was like double my cost, So it's a wise thing to plan ahead the things you're gonna have to spend to be strategic, about your investments and your because you're gonna spend that money if you don't do anything. So if figure out a plan, build a chalet or cabin, live within your means and do it yourself. It doesn't have to be big. It's the first one. You're going to save so much. In 10 years now, we've been here for 12 years. We've saved something like $500,000 in rents, $500,000. That's not cheap, that's good money. So it's worth. So my advice is do it. Just do it.
So important. That's such great insight, because you're saying the things that we're going to spend money on anyway: rent, right? Food, transport, the whole lifestyle, or whether you're driving to work or, paying extra rent in a really nice area to be more social. These things are part of life today, and we're kind of just used to them. And rent has gone through the roof, right? Holidays, it's like, during COVID, it's like everything just got really expensive, and now even holidays are really expensive too, and traveling and Airbnbs and things like that. So adding up, what I'm hearing is adding up rent, adding up these things that you're going to spend, food. Why don't add those costs up? And if you've saved $500,000, then it's going to be an investment over the next 5 to 10 years. Obviously, it's going to take some time to build, plan, the right people. And but once it's set up, I'm sure there's a lot of maintenance as well. I guess my biggest fear is what if something breaks? There's so much comfort and reliability that we have in the system, the electricity, all these different things, food, just going to the shops or going to get fuel or going to the hospital. These are real things. So it's like how I think it's water, food, shelter are the main ones. And then you've got, comfort, fuel, right? Medicine, health. So how do you manage all that? Are you saying that all those answers are on that website, or what kind of advice can you help give us? Yeah,
it depends how deep you want to go, but it's I've learned that we need people. We need people more than money. So if you want to have build like a chip like I've done, who have some kind of self-reliant plan B, or just want to be closer to nature to enjoy the quality of life. The air here is incredible. The silence is fantastic. The scenery is amazing. My dogs are happy in the wild. I got animals here. I can hunt on my own land. That just I got my own water. It's so satisfying to live so close to nature. Well, of course there's some difficulties you might not be trained for and you have to prepare for, but just don't do it all by yourself. Get connected around and get the contacts to help you out with the stuff. For instance, last week, one of the pipe froze outside, and it was just water would drip outside in the freezing cold. And I called the plumber, and he was sick, so he couldn't come over. And so it was kind of a pain, and it was hard to access pipes. But I've decided, well, I'm not a handyman, but let's face that challenge. Let's fix that myself. And I went to the store and bought some valve, it's a PEX tubing. So I just buy a plier to cut the PEX, and I put the valve in it that just would fit like this. And that's it. It was solved, So you have to be, how'd you say that? Not reliable. What's the name?
Yeah, resourceful,
Resourceful.
and
Exactly.
jack of all trades. Yeah.
But don't take it all. I mean, you don't take the whole burden on your shoulders. You see, that's what I was doing. That's why I actually took 12 years to build this. But this year, I've hired like a contractor to help me with finishing like my new roof. You see, the roof here is now finished. It wasn't like that like a month ago. And I've hired people to do the tilings here because it's a large surface and I don't have time. And so you hire people to help you out with the stuff, but you learn the basics so you can survive. For instance, last in April, my battery charger just died on me, and I could not recharge my batteries, with the generator when there's no sun, because we only have like a few days of autonomy. When there's no sun, we have to fire up the generator to recharge the batteries. Well, I had to live with this, so I had to figure out how to do that, because by the time I replaced that inverter charger, it would take like at least a month to get the part, and my spare part was defective too, It happens. It happened to me. I have like 2-3 generators, and the backups, they're all dead, so it happens, so what do you do when it happens? Well, that's life, you deal with it. And so that's why my advice is try it, do it, and you'll survive. It's a good experience. It's good to know that you can actually survive if the worst should happen, that you're resourceful. You have inner resources within you that you're not aware of. And most people are not aware that they're all rich inside. They just don't tap into their full potential. Your boss, if you're an employee, your boss is only tapping into less than 10% of your full potential, but he's taking your whole life to only exploit you of 10% of what you can do. So imagine if you start yourself by your autonomy to learn how to actually mass produce your income. Well, this is available. There's thousands of options. The key thing is you have to review them and get the right team made, the right team people who you're connecting with. Okay, if you're not comfortable with any people that are approaching you for business opportunities, well, don't do business. Go with your inner feelings, but do the research and find out the options, the right thing for you, because there's so many opportunities out there, but which one you're going to pick? I was teaching guitar, but I've been trained in solfege. I can sing, and I can actually show you how to write music, stuff like that. I've been formally trained to do that. But let's say somebody comes to me and say, I want to learn piano. I say, well, I don't teach piano, so I will not try to sell you piano lessons or music lessons because you want to learn piano. But if you come for the guitar and ask you, well, what do you want to play the guitar? And you say, my mom bought me this guitar, and I just cut my fingers. I only have 2 fingers left, and I want to play guitar. So, well, okay, you only have 2 fingers left. You want to play the guitar like Django Reinhardt. Wait, it's possible. Well, why don't you pick something easier to do, like singing? And he said, oh, my mom bought me this guitar. Well, go ask your mom if she's would be okay if you would sing instead of playing guitar, since you only have 2 fingers. You're at the disadvantage. and if he does, and he comes back, he said, well, she's okay, I can learn to sing. Well, all right then, so it's all that kind of relationship with your mentor. I've told you my dad was not my friend, but he was a very good dad. He kicked me in the ass when it was time, and he gave me a few good advices, but we still don't get along. But I got respect for what he did, because he had to cope with life too, and he's ill-equipped in terms of emotional intelligence. He's a psychiatrist, so these are the worst kind, So, and that's why I'm so crazy, I'm very crazy. I'm pursuing my own dreams. I'm a dreamer. That's actually the main thing he was complaining about me. I was a dreamer, but it's not a sin, to dream is important. When you lose your daydreaming abilities, you're like dead, and you're not joyful anymore. And then when you lose your joy, what are you left with? So that's why look around for options, for people that can help you find your way, and just dive in and just do it. And you'll learn so much about yourself and so much about what your potential. Who knows what kind of life you're going to get, what people you'll attract in your life. That's the My main message would be, just like, trust yourself, and just like, do it. You'll just have one life, so just find a dream, find your purpose, and just like look out for opportunities and get help. Train yourself to do what you have to do to get what you want, what you want to have. That would be my best advice.
Yeah. And you touched upon so many great points there, really around, teamwork, following the joy. It's okay to ask for help, right? Not everyone's going to be amazing at everything. You have my two fingers, so why not be a singer? So in order to be in this universe, one song, or playing in a band, or which is a team, or in a business, which is a team, or in a partnership, in relationship, it's a team.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
family these dynamics really should be a team, but unfortunately there is a war on the family, and war on team, war on people being in unity and community. So it's about, I totally agree, the genius within us. We're good at some things and we're not good at other things. I'm great at some things, but I'm also really bad at some things, and acknowledging that I have strengths and weaknesses, and that you have strengths and weaknesses, and together we can actually complement those weaknesses and support each other. And creating a team and a family and a unity, a community, is really number one, that this concept will transform the whole world. So glad you brought that up. Yeah, let's cap this out. How can people get in touch with you, and any final comments to kind of finish off today's awesome discussion?
Well, people can reach me out at my email address on Facebook. I think you'll have them on the display on there.
Yeah, I'll have it around the video, everyone. So somewhere around the video, I'll definitely have all the links for you, Etienne. Yeah.
But the main site would be, for now, because my funnel is not ready. Can you imagine this? I'm working.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I would give this URL instead, but for now, you can go to taketherightdecision.co for Colombia.co. Take the right decision. I also have Make the Right Decision too, but it's not yet redirected. So that's where they can register and get in touch with me. I'd like to add something about women, because it's mostly for men, this podcast, but women are my team is mostly women, and I've got a team of women working with me, and they're so good. I mean, they're much better than I am, honestly. and their energy, their care, their dedication, they're just like they're so full of life, and they broke away from this 9 to 5 mentality, and then they're younger, of course, but and that's what the future is going for. We're going for a world where people will own back their lives, own back their time, their health, by knowledge, with knowledge, the miracle of the free things like water, like music, like people's kindness, the information available for you to succeed. And all these old institutions have been corrupted, are like cancer. They're dying, and you don't have to fight them. They're crumbling under their own incompetence and lies, because if they repeat lies and lies and lies, doesn't make it through. So people are getting out of this, breaking away from this cancer of the mind, this virus of the mind, and they're using other virus, because viruses are good for your body. Your body's made up of 1/3 of your body is made of viruses. So, Virus of the Mind, actually, it's a book I recommend you read. Virus of the Mind. What's his name? Bradley, I think. No, not Bradley. I don't remember the name, but Virus of the Mind. The guy worked for Microsoft. He's one of the guy who was in charge of building Microsoft Words, and a fascinating book. and it explains that before language, before the printing press, all culture would evolve through to the paroles and to ideas that were a virus of the mind. Basically, he says that ideas and concepts were sometimes could be summarized with just one word, and he called it like a virus of the mind. That's how they would transfer vast amount of information and knowledge and habits and customs, traditions, and so this is like a property of our human mind. That's why things can go viral, because we have this ability to adopt something and to become very contagious and transmit the information, so we can share quickly. So, and that's what's happening, I think, maybe with the propaganda thing. They're trying to use this. You call this a designer virus, which is like a crazy idea, maybe the best idea what a virus of the mind is the word Google, or the word Kodak. Kodak was like it was an image of the camera before the advent of the smartphone. People were using Kodak, was just like bring your Kodak, means like bring your camera to take pictures, but it's gone now. Now it's replaced by Google. Just a brand becomes like an image, and so this is the kind of things that we're made of. So that's why I think corporations are doomed, institutions are doomed, government is doomed, banking is doomed. Now the new world is based on us taking back our life, the ownership of our life. Ownership will become totally different. You won't need to have a title and a registration. You own your thought, you own your life, you own your beliefs, and that's the future. And my plan is to help people, train people, so they can actually become contagious, and they can just like promote wellness, wealth, especially how to become resourceful for wealth, to generate wealth for yourself and for others, because we need to spread this. It's available. It's all in your mind. So that's why I'm involved with you with the Healy, and I'm involved with Enagic and some other companies. I got my own companies too. And I'm a team builder. I'm learning to do this. I'm not very good yet, but I'm getting there. And we're using the automation tool because I got a web hosting company. We've been like in web automation for years. And these tools are merging with leadership, so we can actually automate all the plumbing, if I can say, and you can just focus on the fun part, which is helping people to communicate the joy of success, the joy of providing hope, and hope is very important. It's very important to have hope. Have hope you have a better future. Hope you can do it. Hope you will be helped to do that. Hope you'll have support. Hope it's hope is the base of possibilities. But to do that, you need to own your thoughts, to own your life, and you need to do things to do that. It will not be given to you by the institutions. They have a vested interest for you to only believe into falsehood. So not focusing on the negative thing, not trying to fight them, but just like creating another world through your own world and sharing it with others, pushing it, like leading people to get engaged, to get into the movement of acquiring the certitude that you can build your own life, and you can own it, own your life.
Own your life. That is really what this is all about. 100%. I've got this little wristband that says live by design, not by default. And so, yeah, that's really what it's all about. So this has been super powerful. So many golden nuggets here. And thank you for that beautiful words of wisdom at the end there. The hope, faith, possibility, opportunity is for us, for the taking. It's all the choice. So thank you so much. And yeah, I look forward to connecting with you very soon, Etienne. Thanks for your time.
Thanks to you, Zach. Take care.